Tonight, your headlines from Philadelphia. The mayor has issued an embarrassing apology after she forgot to provide postboxes to the new Atkinson development. Atkinson Vineyard is to get a new lease of life as Dahlgreen's wine is set to take over the old heritage site. Work starts on the new huge modern makeover today. And finally, a car belonging to Dr. Emmett Lathrop Brown, who's recently set up shop in Gaudy Bay, was spotted flying over Hoskins Castle on Tuesday night. ABC will keep you informed of more developments in this case. Stay tuned for more and hit that thumbs up to keep up with the latest. Hello everybody and welcome back to Philadelphia, where today we are doing part one of two incredibly special, hopefully unique-ish builds that we're going to be doing over in the hillsides over Atkinson over here. So today we're going to be taking a suggestion from Therese Dahlgreen, apologies if I've butchered your name there, who suggested they would love to see a vineyard rolling between the hills overlooking the lake, which I absolutely love the idea of. So we're going to be taking this little space over here and transforming it into probably one of the most ambitious builds I've actually attempted in Cities Skylines II as of yet. So I've been having a look at vineyard inspiration, of course, on Google Earth, and I found this place, which is Bodega Garzon in Uruguay, which is described as one of the world's best vineyards, in 2022 at least. But as you can see from this, it is an absolutely stunning, modern, sprawling building overlooking these rolling hills of vineyards. And I believe it's mostly olive and almond trees present actually in this, but they do create wines. They have a whole massive wine cellar experience that you can go and do if you're ever in Uruguay. Maybe you'll want to check it out. But I think we can do a really cool take of this in Cities Skylines II. So this is going to be one of the most ambitious builds I think I've ever attempted. But I'm going to do my best to do our version of Bodega Garzon over these hillsides. And a big part of this, as you can see from these pictures, are these green roofs, which lends itself perfectly to the urban promenades assets if you have that content creator pack, which leads me nicely on to today's video sponsor, which is Instant Gaming. If you're perhaps looking to pick up the Urban Promenades Content Creator Pack, or indeed Modern Architecture, or even the baseline Cities Skylines 2, in fact any game of your choice, including Farming Simulator, Civilization 7, the whole Sims shebang, and of course Planet Zoo and all of its corresponding DLCs, please do use my link in the description of this video to go and see what amazing discounts they do have. And we also have a monthly giveaway, which is again linked in the description below, where you can win a game of your choice courtesy of Instant Gaming. So go and bag yourself a deal, check out the link, and also help to support the channel. So first thing, we're going to clear all of the trees off of this mountainside. Now I'm going to make this quite a large complex, so it's going to go pretty much all the way down to the end of the peak here, and I'm thinking over this part of the hillside as well. So something like that should do pretty nicely. I don't know if we'll use the entirety of this space, but we'll see how we go. So I want to work on putting together the main house first. I'm going to use this little area here for it, where there's already a slightly flatter section, and we're just going to make it slightly bigger for plopping down the buildings, and then we're going to shape the landscape a little bit around it, because we've still got plenty of room here to get rid of that kind of cliff texture as we come back down the hill this side. And we might even use a little bit of cliff or overhanging buildings, which I'm going to talk about in a second, over that side. Now the reason why I've chosen this point as well is because looking out over here, we look out onto this beautiful island this side, but you can also peek out to where the main city downtown's going to be there. So it's going to be quite a stunning view that way. And then secondly, from this direction, beautiful views over the lake and Atkinson there, with the mountainsides in the background. And we're also going to be doing another build next episode right over here, which is going to take up most of that hillside. So I think it's a pretty spectacular location actually. I mean, we could have done it right out on this peak out over here where it would feel a bit more private, but I think having that joint view of the lake and then also the island and the downtown is going to be pretty cool. So for the main house, I'm going to use the sculpture mansion that we did use over in Gaudy Bay hillside as well. We're just going to flip this around so that the front of it is facing this way. And I'm going to turn contours on for this because we're desperately going to need them. So I'm going to place the main house around about here, so we've got some area in front of it to play with, and we've got lots of space to either side for doing the next part. And for that, we're actually going to be introducing the static ploppables into Philadelphia, and we might press pause for this just so we don't completely destroy that building with lack of power. But like I mentioned when we were looking at the reference photos, I really want to use urban promenade buildings for this because of those green roofs. And I think like with the modern architectural aesthetic of the sculpture mansion, they're going to sit in pretty well. But we are using the static ploppables and not the zone buildings, because for this, I feel like that's too tall to be sat up there. Well, I mean, that one's not too bad, but if we go for something like that, it's far too bulky, and we don't really want that up here. So I want to be using more of these, where they've got these amazing little balconies hanging out over the side. So we've got areas where we can do some nice prop work for a cafe or something at the back there, I'd say. And we've got this balcony at the front, definitely for some seating to overlook the lake or the downtown, whichever direction we're going in. And yeah, so with these static ploppables, they act as essentially a prop. So we can sink them into the ground and it's not going to distort the terrain. So it makes building something like this kind of fun. We can piece together a whole bunch of these, some of them sunk in, some of them raised up to get some differences in height to create this really kind of sprawling modern building. So this is definitely one I want to introduce. I'm going to use Anarchy for this, and we're going to plop down a selection of these buildings that we can use. So they're not going to be functional, which is the other thing to bear in mind. So I'm probably going to want some other form of functional buildings in here, maybe some commercial hidden away somewhere, so that we actually get people up to this area. Obviously, we will have the sculptor mansion, so someone will be ultimately living up here. I'm going to guess it's probably Atkinson's house with this grand view over the town. So yeah, we want to try and find some of these assets which have got nice kind of balconies like that one that we just saw there. But quite a few of them are quite square in nature, so we do want to be just a little bit selective with this. Like I like this one. It's got that sort of stage out the back, as it were. It's quite nice and long and thin. So if we go ahead and we put this in here, let's just start moving some of these around so you can see the process. So yeah, we can sink it into the ground. The terrain isn't all nastily deforming or anything like that, so it's absolutely wonderful. And the good thing about these buildings is as well is there's very clear levels, so we can sink it right into the ground there, and it then doesn't look like we're cutting off any windows. We can integrate it into the side of the sculpture mansion. We've still got this lovely decking out the back that we can play with here too. And so what we want to do is just ultimately go around and fit some of these buildings together, fuse them in together so that we get this really gorgeous sprawling estate pattern. And now we've got that in, the next thing is to recolour some of these buildings. So like this blue one here, I definitely want to make this all white. I feel like that's going to be blending in the best with everything else ultimately around it. And then we do have these couple of office buildings that I've used down the end here. Let's go ahead again and make these white, or as white as they possibly can be. I think that one's already white as it is. I don't mind the grey roofs there, that's okay. But yeah, so there we go. So we've got kind of the outline of the main building. So it is sort of like a hotel ranch place where there's lots of rooms, is what I'm imagining. So we're going to put some of these actual little hanging egg chair things. I definitely want some of those up on some of these balconies, and there'll be exclusive suites if you come and visit the vineyard, is what I'm thinking here. I think that's what it's like in Bodega Garzon. And then we've got patios like this, which could be a little bar. We've got, again, these two here, which could be more open communal seating areas. I'll probably get rid of the tennis court, I think, out the back here. We've also got this, which is super cool as it's kind of sunk into the back of that building. And then we've also got this front terrace area, which I'm imagining could be restaurant tables or a bar table. You can sit out and look over Atkinson from that direction. So the next thing I do want to do as well is get in the most difficult bit, our take on the water feature. And I'm going to use water mirror surfaces, of course, for this, but we do need to get in a pathway to loop around the outside. And this is probably the most tricky part, to be honest with you. So we want to get a nice circle in here, and we want it to kind of loop over this half of the building so that it's very similar to Bodega Garzon. So essentially these rooms here are literally looking out over the water, I think would be quite nice. And then we could even produce a walkway over the top if we wanted to, potentially into this sort of middle, we could call that a door in the middle there. And that might be quite nice for that. And then the main entrance, of course, is going to be here or in via the sculptor mansion. And now this isn't meant to be used as an actual path. It is intended to be the framing around our actual pond area. So we're going to use retaining wall sides to give us that nice kind of wall, and we're going to sink the path from the top level down round here and then back up to the top level is what I'm thinking, at least. So I want to kind of shape off a bottom level area like that. I'm not 100% sure if it's in exactly the right place, so we'll make it a little bit bigger than it actually needs to be. And then we want to use slope tool to curve this down nicely. So we'll have a flat section that comes out here, and imagining the circle is round about this way. So I have a flat section there, and then we'll start the slope from this point. So we'll slope it up round like that. And then we're going to slope back up from this point as well. So the retaining wall will kind of change in terms of the height that it sits at around the building. So I want to turn on snap to angle and snap to zone length, because this is what is going to help us to get in our big circle accurately. So I'm going to go to a length of 52. And we'll snap it to 90 degrees. That's probably actually slightly too far. Okay, so we'll go to 44 and snap to 90 degrees, and that's not too bad. And then if we go to 44 again, and again we'll snap to 90 degrees, and 44 this end as well, like that. This may be too short now. Then we're going to go to 44 again, and we're not coming up the slope section here if we do that. Actually, that's going to be round about perfect. But yeah, we want to change this slope section before we put in, because I found the easiest way to do this is to make sure that the landscaping is accurate before we put in the path, because using Move It actually can make it quite tricky. So again, let's go 44 meters here, click, 44 meters this way at 90 degrees. And then we know we're good there. And then we can carry it on this way. It's not going to matter too much because I don't think it's really going to be connected into anything. We could always put a fake door in there potentially if we wanted to. There we go. So we have got our path, and then we're going to go to road tools, and we're going to upgrade it to a retaining wall side on this side, like I mentioned. And we will do that all the way around, even on the sections which are going to be on flat ground. And then we're going to come in and we're going to try our best to level off this section without completely ruining the path, which is tricky to say the least, because the path is quite a narrow structure. And I'm thinking actually here, before we do this, let's actually use Road Builder mod to widen the path. So we're going to come in here, and that's at 3 meters at the moment. And if we added a second one, we're then going to get it to be 6 meters wide. Yeah, like this. So that is going to be called our extra wide path. And we're going to come in and grab it. We're going to click place. And then we're going to upgrade all of these other paths to that. Now I want to make sure our snapping's on so we're getting round in our circle nicely. That's not gone in nicely. But okay, we'll change this section here. Like that. Okay, so now we can go back, add our retaining walls, and then try and flatten off the centre, and we'll hopefully get some better results there. Okay, and I don't think that's too bad, apart from the random tearing that we're getting in a couple of places. But that is generally the effect that I want. We do have a bit of smoothing out to do in certain places. Again, we may even need to make the path even wider, which I'll have a play around with in detailing. But now we have this perfect circle up the top, in which we can go ahead and grab our water surface. And I'm just going to use the CS2 water mirror, I think, for this. And we're going to fill in this entire area. Like that. And then we get a really nice pond with a nice edge and a kind of slopey path to it. So it is kind of like what we actually saw on Google Earth. This is my best attempt at it, at least. So I'm actually just going to flatten off some more of this area here because I would like to work on doing the walkway over to it, which I think would be a fun addition. So we're going to grab a pedestrian path, I'm going to force it into elevated mode, and then we're going to raise it up just a tiny bit. And I think we might be able to kind of loop it into this part of the building up here. So I'm actually thinking in terms of the angle of the pond, it might be better to bring it in over here. So let's snap into that middle area there and we'll bring this across. And that is completely flat, which is wonderful news. I think we'll bring it out to there and then we're going to bring it down to ground level over here like that. We don't want this bit to be forced to elevated, so let's just upgrade this. And then, yeah, we need to do a bit of sorting out here. So let's grab all three of these nodes and make sure that this is at the right height for making it look like it's actually going into this window here. So we can just drop it down just a tiny bit. And we might even put in a door prop over there as well, just to sort of signify the effect that that is a doorway. And we can shift this over so that slopes a little bit more reasonable. And then for the walkway as well, you may have noticed at the beginning it had a kind of cover on it. So I would absolutely, of course, like to try and replicate that here. So we're going to grab our pergola number 6 for this. And this fits almost perfectly on the actual pedestrian path. So now what we need to do is use line tool in fence mode and draw ourselves in a row of these all the way up to the main building like that. And now we can't see them because I'm assuming they're underground. So let's go and get our props because we don't have any other props in this area apart from the big building. So that's not going to filter there. And then we can raise them up. We can Control H to make sure they're all the same height. And then we can align it up nicely to our walkway. And there we go. And now the other thing I do want to do here is get rid of this pillar in the middle because we're actually getting pillars off these little pergolas, which I hadn't realised. So I think I'm going to actually delete out this one because that just looked a little bit strange, and indeed this one, and we'll just leave them over the water like that. But that does give us a nice effect. The other thing of course we could do is just convert that to a covered walkway, which we could do, but I like the fact that the sun shines through on this one and we get that sort of shadow. That's very much like how it was on Google Earth, so I think we're going to leave it at that. Then we'll come in the detailing a little bit later and add a couple of little islands in, some of the other patterns that we saw in the reference photos, but that is essentially our modern art exhibit pond in. Of course, we need to sort out all of this terrain, make this walking path look nice to walk around and all that kind of stuff, but we'll come back to that a little bit later on. Okay, so let's talk about road access so we can get rid of these warning signs and actually press play. So first and foremost, let's turn contour lines on. I do want this road to extend on out this way towards the development that we're going to be doing next time. So we'll have this come straight out, and then I'm also going to add in, and we'll want to delete that lone little tree there. I'm also going to add in a curved section from this direction, just so it's not so sharp on the corner of the hillside there. And then this way, we're going to follow this contour line around the hill, and this will kind of form a boundary as well for our vineyard too. And so if we go in straight this way, that is horrifically nasty and bumpy. Let's make sure we have a constant slope turned on, which is going to massively help this building effort. And then we'll just come out straight like that at the end there, and there you go, beautifully straight, even though the terrain was most definitely not there. So that's our main access road. Oh, I'm not sure what is going on there. Let's trim off that extra little piece. And we do also need to adjust this fence, which I have put in here too. That should do nicely. And now we can add road access up to our great massive vineyard mansion. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, I suppose, to get this at a reasonable angle. So I want it to come out of the road like this and then curve up the hillside towards the main entrance, which is going to be here. So let's come up like this. That's 15.4, which is quite steep, but I think it's going to do for this case. Then we're going to bring it straight out and into the front here. We're going to cover all of this up with surfaces when we come to the detailing. So we've got a really nice front area there. And we also need a road to wrap around the side this way to service these offices too. So let's just join this in like so. And I think when it comes to detailing, I may add a few of the vanilla ploppable buildings sort of overhanging the cliff here because they work so well on very steep terrain like this in terms of not pushing the height of the landscape around. So that's definitely something that we can look at. And then maybe I actually put another office down this end to encourage people to actually use our path round, which I think would be quite tasty indeed. I am wondering if we can delete a small section of it here, but it doesn't really look like we can. So what I'm actually going to do, just to make sure they don't walk round this way and through the buildings, so I'm actually just going to create ourselves a segment like that. And then we should be able to just delete this middle bit, yes we can, which is hidden in the buildings. No problem there at all. So we've still got the aesthetic of our lake out the front, and yet the path doesn't go this way. So if people want to walk round, they'd have to walk round the bottom, which I think will be a really nice aesthetic. But yeah, I think it would be good to have another office or a commercial unit or something up this way, just so we can encourage some people up there. And while we're at it, let's also trim off this fence and these surfaces here, because I don't think they're particularly appetizing for what we want. I don't know if we do want a tennis court. Maybe we do. It feels a little bit overkill for a vineyard. So I'm going to trim all of this back off for now. And we can always add back in a tennis court if we so wish later on. This one still interestingly says it's not connected. So let's just grab move it on it a second. And then if we press play, it'll go away. So there we go. We have got a functioning building up here now. All of this clearly needs smoothing out. But let's talk, before we detail, about the actual vineyards themselves and how we're going to do that. Now this is going to be probably the most long-winded thing I think I've ever done in any build, possibly ever. But I really wanted to have what looked like grape or olive vines in and not just rows of trees here. So I think we will do one section, very much like Bodega Garzon, where there is trees somewhere. Maybe up this side is the tree plantation and all around here is the vineyards. Not too sure yet. We'll see. We'll see how tired I do of doing this method, I'll be honest. If we come into net lanes, what I'm going to firstly do is put down a load of fencing. So the fence I feel like is most suitable for this is this one, but we want to make sure we're getting this nice wood colour. So we do have asset variation changer set to on, so this should always come in at the same colour. So how are we going to do the vines? Now I do want kind of this slightly curvy section in some places, because looking on Google Earth I saw some really amazing patterns in some of the vineyards. So what we're going to do with this fence is we are going to, let's turn contour lines on. We kind of want to make sure it's all smoothed out and stuff first. But we're going to put down a row of fence like this, and that's probably a little bit too close to the road there. And we'll do them a little bit of a distance apart, like so. And then we're going to go in, and this is what we're going to have to do on every single one, and use this little cultivated green bush in advanced line tool, not on fence mode, so we're going to get rid of that. We're going to change this right down to, is 2 meter? No, we're going to change this all the way down to 1 meter, and then we're going to line these up over these fences and drag them down, and that will hopefully give us the slight aesthetic of actual vineyards as opposed to trees. So you can see that fence poking through, but it will also mean that I'm probably going to spend at least our certified $500,000 per episode on trees again in order to get this all in. So we definitely want them closer than that for starters, but that is the aesthetic that we're going to go for the vineyards. We're also going to add in rough gravel tracks in between them to act like service roads for the harvesting vehicles and that sort of thing. Also pathways for people to walk around and explore the vineyards. But that is the general gist of what we have to fill this entire mountain with. So I'll probably go around first and put in all the fencing, and then we'll come back through and add all the bushes. And don't worry, I am not going to make you sit through all of that. We will do some cuts in the time lapse just so you can see the general gist of it, and then we'll focus really mainly on detailing up this crazy, beautiful, modern, luxurious vineyard spa getaway resort. And just before we get on to the detailing, there is one glaring thing I totally forgot in the development of Atkinson last time, which I need to embarrassingly fix now, which is of course post boxes. So yes, we did not put any in this area, and you can see the rest of Philadelphia, so far at least, is nicely covered with post boxes. So let's go ahead and add a couple in here. So I'm thinking one on this corner might be quite nice, and that'll keep these guys around here happy. They've got ones close enough, so I think that's okay. We do have a post office here, don't we? Isn't this a post office? Atkinson Post Office, that's correct. So we definitely want to cover this area with some of these facilities. So I think maybe one, let's actually put it in the middle up here, so it's a little bit more spread out amongst these houses on that road. And then if we come into this development, I'm thinking possibly one by the school somewhere, although there's not that many people actually there. So let's go on this corner. And that's just deleted a house. Wonderful. Let's put Anarchy on. And I think because that's there, we'll do another one on this corner here, which provides a nice post route for the postman. And then in the centre, perhaps we could actually have one right on our main plaza area. So one right there. Provide a nice bit of coverage. And then I'm thinking one more, which is going to be somewhere in the centre here. And that nicely serves this cul-de-sac area and that residential district. So that's pretty well covered now. And when we look at our happiness rating as well, reliable mail service is right up there, so we want to keep that. We want to keep them extra happy about being able to post their little letters. And so with that little error fixed, let's crack on with the detailing. Okay, so I have some good news. Someone is actually using our underpass path thing round our pond. Yes, I'm so excited about that. Yes, they're actually using it. I was hoping that that would be the case. I did end up putting a little office in this end, so we do have an office or 3 offices, one down here, 2 over the other side, and a little park down that side as well. And of course we've got the sculptor mansion, so hopefully that's enough to encourage some people around here at least. But yeah, there she goes, wandering around the pond. I'm hating all the tearing, so I'm going to see if I can do some work to get rid of that. But it's only from certain angles, other angles it's okay. So it might be that we do just have to annoyingly live with it, but there we go. So the lore here is that Dole Green's Wine has moved in and taken over the old Atkinson vineyard and given it a new kind of heritage and lease of life. So thank you so much to Dole Green again for your suggestion. I never would have even thought to look at a vineyard or start finding inspiration for this without your comment. Also on that note, please do keep your suggestions, your comments coming, places for inspiration, all the rest of it, because you never know what I might pick up next. And I really greatly appreciate the input from you guys, the community, because wow, I'm so pleased with this build. I think it's just such a huge feature on the Atkinson hillside, and I'm going to start actually by flying from over here so that you can see the view from around Atkinson town centre. I'm just loving how it peaks up over the hillside and then you get this really kind of, I want to say intricate, it's not that intricate, it's not as intricate as the stuff I saw on Google Earth, but then the apple tree orchards over on that hillside as well with the patterns and the curves and things like that. I think it's quite magical and quite special for the region, so yeah, I'm very pleased with that effect. Low enough that it's not intrusive, but visible enough that it's a real feature for the town. And I do also want to shout out Sambor as well here, who suggested having a spa up on these hillsides. Now I know it wasn't maybe quite the sort of Eastern European vibe you were thinking, and we've still got this build over here to come next time. But I am kind of thinking that this would be a sort of spa retreat location where you could go on a vineyard wine tasting, relaxing retreat holiday. And of course there's spa facilities included in it as well. And that brings me on, let's just have a little look around the building because I added so many props to all of these little balconies and all the rest of it. So all of these chairs and these lounges and that sort of thing that you can see here were all added, and I think it gives a really nice effect. So we've got things like this little penthouse up here which has the jacuzzi, the hot tub, the table, the lounges, full pretty much 360 views of the surrounding area. And don't forget, of course, the downtown's going to be over there in the distance as well. So once that is in, I think that's going to be really quite special. So yeah, you can see all the lounges, another penthouse style apartment over here and up there. We also have more sort of restaurants or bars. I think I did another one around this side as well, so a few tables up on that balcony. a whole bunch of chairs on all of these balconies up here. So hopefully that kind of gives the effect that it is a hotel retreat type place, particularly for wine lovers going on their wine vacation, where they can just enjoy the tranquility of all of the apple orchards, and I'm going to say the grape vineyards. That's what I'm going to go for here. So yeah, with the apples, I did decide to go for this sort of curvy pattern, much like what I'd seen in the almond fields in Bodega Garzon when I was taking a look around there. And I think this works pretty well as well with our gravel roads, with, of course, El Glendo's dirt road decal net lanes going over the top, which just make it look so much better, so much more realistic. We've got a little kind of work facility up here. It's actually a warehouse, but you can imagine that would be working on creating the, well, maybe cider, I guess, from apples up here. But then here really is the Dahlgreen wines, vineyards, and we've got all straight lines, because I did realise, of course, and having played Farming Simulator 2, I think I would be quite annoyed if I was trying to harvest grapes off a curvy vine. So yeah, there we go. They are all straight down here. They're maybe a little bit too far apart for my liking, but honestly, you can't underestimate how long this actually took. So I'm probably not ultimately going to go back through and fix that. I think the overall effect is there, and oh, I love that apple orchard in the background there. But I think the overall effect of the vines is there, so I'm kind of pretty pleased with it. And then we've got, of course, the little sort of farmyard, machinery, maintenance yard down here with a couple of trailers to collect the grapes, and processing units potentially over here as well. I'm thinking maybe we do need some kind of brewery for the cider element of it somewhere in the local area, so potentially that to come. Oh, and of course, actually, one of the little features here, a helipad. So yeah, I did notice in Bodega Garzon, of course, there's a helipad there, this being a luxury retreat. Of course, the celebrities will fly in on their helicopters at some point. And again, this is just such a cool view, up to Oregon Point up there as well, round to just the sort of tail end of Gaudy Bay you can see, and then that will be the downtown, of course, and a sneaking peak of Atkinson over there in the distance. So yeah, we've got a whole group of people gathering outside this office here where a sneaky sign has crept back in. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I think the crowning feature is most definitely this sort of pond lake area on the entranceway with those two little islands there. Feels very retreat, very luxurious, and that's exactly the type of thing that I wanted to go for here. It's not perfect in places, there's some slight little dips, so I might try and work and see if I can get those a bit better. But it is very troublesome with the path around the edge, but I'm glad we've done that rather than a road or making it any thicker, because I think that sits in pretty nicely, at least. And then we just got a little entranceway out here, so there is some invisible car parking spaces around this circular end over here. As you can see, a couple of cars are already parked there, and a couple in here as well, imagining that sort of VIP or staff parking potentially, or we've got staff parking actually maybe round the back. But there's not a huge amount of parking, so maybe there's some underground parking maybe somewhere inside the sculpture's mansion underneath, perhaps. We might have to use our imaginations for that. But yeah, really like this path network out the back as well. So we just used actual pedestrian paths surrounded by some of this sort of cobblestone surface, and we've got invisible paths running all throughout this, connecting the two actual pedestrian paths either side. So hopefully we'll see someone actually walk around it. I mean, is this person going to do that? Let's have a look. Well, they're walking at least on the pathway, so I can't complain about that. Whether they actually cross over, let's speed up and have a little look. To actually have this functioning and being used, I think is wonderful. And I can't imagine, even though this is quite a big place, I'm not imagining a great deal of people would stay here. It would still be quite an exclusive vacation, I think. So I'm kind of happy that there's just a few people with just our three little offices and our park up here. So I'm kind of imagining this was an old heritage site of Atkinson, and this is kind of what formed the town, is there was a huge vineyard here and people working there started living down in this town, in sort of the older centre, that type of thing around here. And now, of course, Dole Greens has come in and taken over the old vineyard and modernised it and given it a real place on the map, I guess you could say. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, please do drop a thumbs up on the video and drop me a comment. Let me know your suggestions for future builds, what you think of our crazy take on Bodega Garzon. Have you been there yourself? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my instant gaming link if you're looking for cheap games, and register for this month's giveaway. And if you're keen to watch the next episode early, you can join Patreon or as a YouTube member to get access to that right away. But that is all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye!